Hello, everybody. Welcome to this fourth roadshow for the NSF's Regional Innovation Engines program. Link at the bottom, which many of you probably already know, points to the Regional Innovations Engines homepage. We're going to give this will be a kind of a rocket ship overview of the program. I'll talk briefly about the NSF Engines program, and then we'll introduce the ecosystem builder panel for a panel discussion. And then we'll move to regional breakout rooms where there'll be an opportunity to talk among yourselves and with NSF program officers. And the panelists will be moving between the regional breakout rooms as well. So NSF, just by the numbers, is an $8.5 billion agency. Of that, about $1.5 billion, $1.4 billion goes to STEM education. $200 million is spent on seeding public and private partnerships, and of all the dollars involved, 94% go directly out the door. So NSF is a very efficient agency. In a typical year, NSF funds around 12,000 awards. The Regional Innovation Engines program resides in a new directorate that was formed this spring called Technology, Innovation, and Partnerships. Until this point, it had been over 30 years since a new directorate was formed. Previously, there were 7 directorates, or mostly focused around specific science questions. There's engineering directorate, math and physical science directorate, and so forth, and 2 offices. One that includes polar programs, one that includes integrative activities. These were, although there were a lot of programs that were cross directorate, there was no sense of a single directorate that spanned all of these different areas. And technology, innovation, and partnerships is unique in that it pulls in from all the directorates scientific issues and partners with all the other directorates to create programs that are aimed at creating impact in society. So TIP harnesses the nation's talent pool to advance critical and emerging technologies, address pressing societal and economic challenges, accelerate the translation of research results from lab to market, and improve U.S. competitiveness while growing the U.S. economy and training a diverse workforce. The Regional Innovations Engine program is a new program within the TIP directorate. There are several other programs in TIP that are existing programs that moved into TIP when TIP was created. But the goal of the Regional Innovations Engine program is to build regional scale R&D-based innovation ecosystems across the United States. We all know that there are several sort of poster children for large-scale innovation ecosystems, but much of the United States has not benefited directly from the boom in innovation in technology. So the goal of this program is to spread that around and to create new innovation ecosystems that will advance critical technologies, address societal challenges, promote economic growth, enable job creation, and cultivate regional talent. The program, the Engines program, will have 2 levels of awards. It will award so-called development grants for up to 2 years, for $1 million up to 2 years. And the goal of the development grants is to prepare teams to create competitive proposals for the Type 2 awards, which will be $160 million over 10 years. So what is an engine? I'm just going to read a few things out of here, not the whole thing. A few key phrases: a multi-sector coalition of regional partners. Partnership is particularly important in the creation of an engine. These partners are going to work together to catalyze a regional innovation ecosystem. The engine, as funded by NSF, should be focused on a topic area of regional relevance and societal and national significance. Unlike normal NSF programs, we've chosen the phrase or the title CEO for the leader of an engine. And that's intentional. We're expecting the person that's in charge of an engine to be a full-time, committed person whose job it is to nurture and grow the engine. The partners can be across all sectors, and we're looking for partners from all sectors: industry, institutions of higher education, government, nonprofit, and community-led organizations. Because to make one of these innovation economies succeed, all the players in the region really need to be involved and pulling together. So the idea is we're going to create this structure called an engine. And the goal of the engine is to build this regional innovation ecosystem. And if this succeeds over time, the regional innovation ecosystem will grow, driven by this core set of partners initially funded by NSF and ultimately through the success of the engine itself. We have a model of different stages of creation of an ecosystem that we created in order to try to articulate the goals of the program and to be able to say something about the various phases of an engine. The last phase of a regional innovation economy is a mature phase in which it's totally self-sufficient. It's spinning out new businesses. The universities are creating new technologies, and the companies are working with the universities to create new kinds of products. At the very beginning, phase one is where you're just putting together a team to try to build or create one of these engines. So NSF is looking at funding in two regions. Phase one, the development awards, and type two, which can be either phase two or phase three. And if you read the BAA, you can see how we define these various phases and sort of expectation about the level of activity in the engine at those various phases. The NSF engines will work on the topics that are defined by the engine, but these are, broadly, we're looking for things that are societal and economic challenges. So that's one way to view these. But a cross-cutting way to look at it is the technology focus of specific technologies brought to bear on those societal and economic challenges. We want to see a balance between technical and geographic innovation, incentivize partnerships, and we want these to serve as hubs for NSF's broader portfolio. The things we care about in an engine that we can characterize, on the left, we have innovation to achieve regional economic growth. There are really three pillars to this: use-inspired R&D, translation of innovation to practice, and comprehensive workforce development, all created by a robust regional partnership. So that's sort of the core of what an engine is. But we want the engines to provide over the time that they're being funded by NSF financial sustainability, so that after the end of 10 years, they can continue. We want a culture of innovation. So we want the partners working together to create things and not be fighting each other over innovation. We expect that diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility will be built in from the very beginning at all levels, from the choice of partners, from the leadership, from the roles of the partners. And of course, we're interested in community wealth building. Unlike, or in contrast with many other programs, the eligibility to submit proposals or receive awards is fairly broad. We have three categories. We have the organizations that can serve as the lead. These are the organizations that submit the proposal. These can be institutions of higher education in the United States, accredited in the United States. They can be US-based nonprofit or non-academic organizations, and they can be US-based for-profit organizations. Other kinds of organizations can be part of an engine and receive sub-awards from the award. So for example, US federally funded research and development centers can receive sub-awards. US national laboratories can receive sub-awards. US state, local, and tribal governments can receive sub-awards for agencies that are specifically dedicated to innovation, economic development, or workforce development. There are other organizations that can participate, but they cannot receive NSF funds. These include any organization that is on the Department of Commerce's Bureau of Industry and Securities entity list. So these are companies with which we can do business. International branch campuses of US institutions of higher education and unaffiliated individuals. Yep. They can't receive awards, but they can participate as partners. In creating an engine, we intentionally give in the BA great flexibility to these partnerships. So in determining the relevant partnerships and structuring how they work together, teams are given great flexibility in doing that. We do encourage the teams start developing IP and other partnership agreements during the proposal stage instead of waiting to the end. We have here several examples of structures. They're not exhaustive. They're not recommended particularly. They're just examples. So for example, one can imagine an engine where the lead is a consortium of colleges. There are already some consortium of colleges that have formal legal structures, and there could be new consortia that could be created for this. And around that as core partners, there might be a philanthropic organization, workforce, nonprofit, and so forth. And then as other partners, you might have local government or state government. Or you might have other kinds of organizations at the core. You can have a corporation as the lead partner. You can have a university, R1 university. You can have some new cross-sector entity that's formed specifically for creating this engine. So we're looking at all kinds of partnership arrangements that make sense for your region for solving the kind of problems that you want your engine to address. How does this all fit together? Well, our view is that the engines program is providing the catalyst or the roots or the seeds for building this economic ecosystem. So in this diagram, you see that the stem of this plant and the roots are the NSF Engines program. And from that, we expect growth in direct investment. We expect growth in R&D focused economic development. So we're looking for the plant to grow with the core funding and the core structure provided by the Engines program. So examples of other things that might work together in building an engine, it might be U.S. Department of Treasury providing funding, private investors, foundries and incubators, accelerators. You might work with other U.S. agencies like the Small Business Administration, Department of Commerce, or Department of Energy. We're completely open to discussing almost any arrangement that can be justified and makes sense. What's next? Well, team formation is the key right now. So we're offering these roadshows as an opportunity for groups from various regions of the country to talk and meet each other. We hope that you'll use this opportunity to form some partnerships or form some potential partnerships. These roadshows will continue through next week. The last one is on the 15th. The concept outlines, which are the first stage of the proposal process, are due June 30th. And then in August, probably August 1, we're going to hold a proposers day, which is an opportunity for additional team building. The concept outlines are a key feature in this team building activity because the accepted concept outlines will be published in summary, not the original text, and will be made available to anybody. So even including potential partners who did not submit concept outlines could contact you if you want to be contacted and discuss the possibility of forming partnerships. There'll be additional regionally organized events over the summer and fall, which you can invite NSF to, and if we can manage to put people on them, we'll have people virtually come to your team building events. So here's the time scale of all the different events we have. You can see that this is the 4th roadshow, so the next one next week is dealing with or inviting the states of Alabama, Washington, D.C., Florida, Georgia, and so forth. And then we have a Q&A session on June 21st. You can also send questions to engines@nsf.gov. We monitor that mailbox. We try to answer your questions as quickly as possible. If it's a policy question, it might take a few days because we might have to push the question up. But if it's a general question about the program or clarification with the BAA, you'll get a relatively rapid response from that. Now, just to reiterate, this map, the locations of this map don't mean anything. This is just an example of spreading things around the country. Our goal is to spread these innovation engines, regional innovation engines across the country as many places as we can. So the next thing on our agenda is our ecosystem builder panel. I will mute and then hand it over to Daniel to run the ecosystem builder panel.
Great, thank you so much. Really appreciate it, Jeffrey. So I am Daniel Getzel. I am with the National Science Foundation, also in the Technology Innovation and Partnerships Directorate, working day in and day out with the team on this fantastic program. So we are joined today by 3 wonderful ecosystem builders from across the country. Rather than taking a lot of time and introducing them, I'm going to let each of them introduce themselves. So we're going to start with Nakia. If you can give us a 2-minute overview of yourself and your ecosystem, that would be fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Daniel. I'm no stranger to NSF, very actively involved across a lot of things at NSF, more importantly, the NSF I-Corps program as one instructor. So very excited about what you all are doing here. So my name is Nakia Melecio. I live in Atlanta, Georgia. I work at Georgia Tech. And I do spend a lot of time in our ecosystem, primarily around deep technologies. I focus a lot on, helping technologies in the energy space, aerospace, defense, startups that are kind of innovating in that space to really help them and give them the tools and the resources they need to be able to build technologies and kind of innovate, but more importantly, create jobs alongside that. And as working at Georgia Tech, I spent a lot of time doing a lot of the same things as well too, working with faculty, working with students, primarily in our venture lab, working with helping our faculty do the same thing, spin out their technologies, help them build startups, and create meaningful technologies that have a meaningful impact to our society. But one of the things that I'm very excited about is a program that I was a PI that I won an award back in October to build a MedTech Center of Excellence here at Georgia Tech, which is focused on med device, life science, biotech companies, therapeutic companies, diagnostics, and we're looking at mid to late stages to help them grow, excel, create jobs. So very excited about that program, the MedTech Center of Excellence. We were seeing some unique things about these companies that they were not necessarily getting the resources they need or the coaching or the programming that they need to help scale. So those some of the things that we're working on here in Georgia.
Great, fantastic overview. Next up, we have Gabby.
Hello, good morning or good afternoon to everybody in the call. I am Gabriela Cruz Thompson. I go by Gabby and I work at Intel Corporation. I am in charge of university research collaborations. We have hundreds of collaborations with universities here in the US. As a global company, we are also collaborating with universities outside of the US. And part of my job is to generate new technology ideas for the corporation, but also new technology ideas for the high tech and semiconductor ecosystem. So in this role at Intel, not only I've gotten to collaborate with NSF in building some research academic centers, but I've also been able to get to know many academics and help out with ideas for startups in academia. So similar to what Nakia was sharing in Georgia Tech, we've helped other companies to start, professors and students to get their first ideas solidify into companies, and in some cases, in collaboration with Intel Capital, our venture capital arm of the company, we've been able to support financially the start of some of those companies. So that's my day job, and on the site, and when possible, I love to get to know students and get to encourage them to either start their own companies or to join large companies like Intel and other semiconductor companies and high-tech companies. Thank you, Daniel.
Great, thank you. And Kian, can you give us an overview of the Tulsa ecosystem?
Yeah, of course. Welcome, everybody. I'm Kian. I serve as Executive Director of Partner Tulsa. We recently rebranded. We were previously the Tulsa Authority for Economic Opportunity, but we serve as the lead community and economic development entity for the city of Tulsa. And I would say, really over the past 3 to 5 years in Tulsa, we've seen kind of a rapid evolution of the innovation ecosystem, really with the goal of coalescing key partners around formal strategies to spur innovation in Tulsa, and then building out the assets that will be key to spurring that innovation. I would say the role that our organization has really played, I think most recently, is thinking through how can we best leverage public assets and resources to help build the infrastructure for innovation. An example of that is I've worked in City Hall and led efforts with the mayor and city council to fund the largest business incubator in the state of Oklahoma, which we established on the 5th floor of City Hall through an innovative partnership where we invested CARES funds and then leveraged our asset to offer a reduced lease rate to facilitate this incubation facility. We're taking that model and leveraging some additional assets that we own throughout the city to develop incubators and kind of innovation hubs in North Tulsa, which is our historically Black area of the city, and then in East Tulsa, which is where we have a substantially strong and growing immigrant population. So really thinking through how can we invest public resources into these assets that are critical to the growth of the innovation ecosystem long term.
Great, fantastic. Really appreciate it. I'm now going to ask a question to the full panel here, and we'll take it in turn. So what is one thing that didn't exist in your ecosystem 10 years ago? Who or what was the catalyst for that change or that evolution, and how has it benefited your ecosystem over the past decade? So we'll start with Nakia.
Yeah, so Atlanta has a very unique ecosystem. Everything from social entrepreneurship all the way to therapeutics. And I think but the uniqueness of our ecosystem and how we all play well together, I would be remiss not to acknowledge some of our other strong ecosystem builders here, like Jay Bailey, Joey Womack, people that are in our ecosystem that are spending time to really create meaningful impact with tech, with corporations and universities. So we've got a lot of strong ecosystem builders here. So some of the work that they have done from a social entrepreneurship standpoint has really attracted big corporations to Atlanta with some of the projects and initiatives that they've done to really give meaningful opportunity to underrepresented here in Atlanta, which in turn is attracting new companies like LinkedIn just announced that they're coming to Atlanta. So things like that. So I would say just not so much one thing. I would say it was more of the social cause behind technology and innovation has been the biggest catalyst here in Atlanta that has really put Atlanta on the map, and how intentional we all are about building an inclusive ecosystem and an inclusive innovation ecosystem here.
Great. Gabby, do you want to go next? You can talk about it from the perspective of multiple ecosystems you're seeing, and also perhaps your hometown where you're based.
Well, I'll give the two answers. From the perspective of the last 10 years as a corporation, we've been noting that the federal government here in the US has been more interested in attracting not just fundamental research, but really translating into commercial applications and commercial ideas, those whatever we identified as key knowledge or insights in having completed research. So I think that we've seen a significant change in different federal agencies in wanting to support small and new ideas for entrepreneurship. And then we've seen it that it's not just concentrated in the West Coast, south of Oregon, or in the East Coast, but in other different parts of the country. And I think that's as a U.S. focus, that has been the biggest change. Here regionally in Oregon, in the Pacific Northwest, I think that there is renewed opportunities for small companies to join high-tech industry. I mean, Intel has been in Oregon for decades, and we are, of course, the largest private employer. So as the largest private employer, we've been working with the government to encourage education and entrepreneurship in the state. But I think that nowadays, especially with the big buzz around semiconductors and security interest in the US, we see a renewed interest in the state, in the region, I would say in the Pacific Northwest region, to really help more people come to the high-tech sector.
Great. And last, over to you, Kian. The question is, how has your ecosystem changed over the past decade, and what was the catalyst?
Yeah, and is my audio better?
Much
with
better.
this?
Much
Perfect.
better.
Okay, great. And I put in my AirPods. I would say maybe the most notable and more recent difference is Tulsa has a really unique higher education landscape, which I think historically has put us at a pretty strong disadvantage. We do not have a presence of a public four-year institution in Tulsa. We have satellite campuses for the University of Oklahoma and Oklahoma State University. I think in particular over the past few years, we've seen a really big increase in the willingness of those institutions to make strategic investments in those satellite campuses and really prioritize leveraging our industry strengths here in Tulsa and finding those unique opportunities to invest in the university infrastructure, which is just, I think, fundamental to our future and the willingness of those institutions to really kind of make some big bets here in Tulsa, as opposed to just only doing it at their main campuses in Norman and Stillwater. There's lots of other things that I could quote, but I think that's one that really stands out when it comes from an innovation perspective.
Great. We're actually going to stay with you for the next question as well. So you mentioned that you recently restructured your economic development agency. One of the things that Jeffrey talked about in the different structures is sometimes, the lead entity might be something that already exists. It might be a repurposing of that entity, or it might be the creation of a new entity. I'm sure when you all went through this process, you thought about each of those possibilities. I'm just curious about how you all arrived at restructuring and how has it changed the way economic development is done in your region?
Yeah. So we, in my previous role, I was with the city of Tulsa. I worked for the mayor. And came into that role recognizing that we had a really fractured and inefficient way of approaching community and economic development, super siloed, lots of resources and little kind of ticky-tacky places, really poor kind of like staff leadership structures and lots of separate boards of governance. So for us, we knew that long-term, in order for us to be more impactful, we needed to consolidate and merge those entities. So it made sense for us, and we luckily, we were, I think, uniquely able to execute this merger, which I'm not aware of another city finding the pathway to merge multiple public entities into one single organization. And I think for us, we looked at it with like, how do we develop a model that we know is sustainable long term? And I think anytime you're thinking about building out these an ecosystem and how do you sustain it long term, you really need to be thinking about what's the kind of fundamental operating model that will allow you to be successful, not just while you have an initial influx of funding, but that will allow you to be successful long term. And for us, obviously, like we're based on a model where we have, we own over 180 assets. Those assets generate revenue for us. So we have this kind of unique position that allows us to be successful long term. I would really encourage people to think about what does that sustainable model look like for them, so that you can keep doing this well beyond any influx of federal funding.
Yeah, thank you for bringing that up. So that's one of the things we highlight in our call for proposals. Thinking about sustainability from day one, thinking about the different models that will allow you to leverage the capital that NSF can provide to the region, but making sure that we're not the only capital at the table. So next up, over to you, Gabby. I would love to ask you a little bit about industry co-creation and industry engagement. We make a really intentional point in what we put out in calling for industry to come to the table in a meaningful way in partnering, as opposed to just offering letters of support or saying, we'll take a look at things that come out of your labs or whatever it might be. Could you talk to us about perhaps an example of something you all have worked on where this has done really well, and how were you able to co-create with other sectors, whether that might be the startup community or academia, to build something that was larger than the sum of its parts?
So I think we have several examples of that with our partnerships with academia, but I'll give you an example of an older center that was funded at UCLA, Center for Domain-Specific Computing, and there's a startup that came out of that research collaboration, and it was initially funded by NSF, Intel, and other companies were originally co-funding that research center, and it has spawned out a couple of companies out of that fundamental research investment. I think what is different and exciting now is the possibility of being more focused on that, spinning out new companies and helping others in the ecosystem locally to participate in what comes out of fundamental research that is done at universities. I think that I imagine that others, and I've talked to some of my peers in the industry, are really excited to get to work locally with our communities. In many cases, all of us are working globally, and so this is a concentration that is a little bit different than what we're used to in some cases, to focus on regions and regions of centers of excellence that exist in the different regions in the country. I think also it's going to be very different than before to reach out to different social entities and make sure that a bigger proportion of the community is invited to participate in innovation. I think the nonprofit sector, I think disenfranchised communities that have not been part of this innovation processes, bringing them from the beginning as co-creators of ideas sounds really exciting. I know it's going to be challenging because we have to forge new trusts, new networks, getting to know human to human. I mean, this is where things really happen, right? When the humans get together. And I think that getting to learn different languages that we use, because I am sure that we are not all synced up in the same dictionary, if you will. But those are what I see the challenges, but it's also the excitement of having the proper startup funding to bring this different communities together.
Thank you for highlighting that. I really, really appreciate it. And that's something we've been trying to reinforce in all of these conversations across the country, co-creating from the start, building equitable partnerships, building inclusive economic development. So the benefit isn't captured by a very few number of people as opposed to the broader region. So thank you for highlighting all of those points. So Nakia, talking a little bit more about the ecosystem piece. I know you said that there's a number of fantastic partners in the Atlanta area. You know, for example, Georgia Tech has a phenomenal engineering school, but lacks a medical center, but Morehouse and Emory and others have that. How do you think about co-creating and working with some of these other academic institutions in the region and also other stakeholders beyond the walls of Georgia Tech to do things and to build? So how do you kind of work with the different assets that are around the table and make sure you're doing this in a way that goes beyond the four walls of your institution?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I think the operative word here is intentional, right? You have to, one, understand the stakeholders and understand what is their capacity or bandwidth and their limitations. And how do you take the time to really get to know other stakeholders? And it's interesting that, we don't have a medical school here at Georgia Tech, but when you look at the level of research that we do here at Georgia Tech, it rivals that of a medical school. And not to say that in a bragging sense, but to say but that's direct correlation to partnerships, right? With Morehouse School of Medicine, with Emory Medical School, with University of Georgia, just around the ecosystem, and just how we play together with Augusta University. And so I think that we have a very collaborative ecosystem among faculty in our ecosystem. And so with that every time that I think about writing a proposal, I am very strategic to make sure that I reach out to partners who I know normally don't have an opportunity to be included in these kinds of proposals, to make sure that we're crafting a narrative that works best for us, that works best for them. And then how do we co-create together to make sure that we're building something that's amazing? Because I think that's how you build ecosystems. It's not so much just operating in a silo. We see them, every city has them, every university has them. But I've never met any silo that was really largely successful enough, that drove enough impact that changed people's lives. And so I think with this proposal, when it's intentional about making sure that you're being inclusive in that, you'll build strong ecosystems. So we've got programs that Georgia Tech does with Morehouse and Spelman and Clark that we work together to help support their students. They come see us, we support them. So it's a strong collaborative relationship that we get beyond the four walls. And one of the institutions within Georgia Tech, speaking of economic development, is our Enterprise Innovation Institute, or as we like to call it, EI Square, which is the longest running, oldest economic development arm attached to a university. And what we do here at EI Square, we're very successful at it from a local level and a global level. And so we do a lot in South America and Africa and China. And so we're very inclusive about our programming to make sure that we're pulling people in, to make sure that it's just not us benefit from the resources that we have here at Georgia Tech, but we're making sure that we're sending faculty and students and people who work within our university to these other ecosystems to make sure that we're helping them build strong and sustainable ecosystems as well.
Great. Last question, and it's going to be for everyone on the panel, but I'm going to ask you to limit your response to just one sentence, which I know will be hard since you all have already given us some great responses so far. So a big part of this program is we understand that you're going to make mistakes. There are going to be missteps. You're going to build in a nimble, creative way so that you can drive breakthrough technologies. But we also recognize at points you might need to slightly redirect. So perhaps for the benefit of everyone in the room today, can you give us, one thing that you all got wrong in the early days that you have since course corrected on and has led to the benefit of your ecosystem? So I'll start with Nakia. One sentence or one thing that you all got wrong that you've course corrected on.
I wrote my first proposal that was not inclusive, and I paid for it when I got feedback. And I course corrected it and won the second one.
Great. Gabby.
I think that many times we've started with a solution in mind as opposed to a problem in mind. And so I hope that in this situation, we will start with use inspired to solve a problem and not the solution in mind, right? As engineers, we tend to have a wonderful technology solution in mind, and we want to apply it to everything that we can think of. Let's hope that we start with use inspired problems in the community.
Fantastic. Kian, wrap it up for us, please.
Yeah, I would say, I think particularly with this administration's focus on diversity, equity, inclusion, and inclusive partnerships, it's oftentimes, I think, we start with our kind of who we view as the center of our partnerships, and wait a long time to start reaching out to the people who we know we need to bring in, likely because we don't yet have those relationships. And I would just say, we have found the sooner you can start bringing people into discussion so you can help co-create, the better, because it never fails. When you wait too long, it backfires.
Great. Well, this has been a wonderful panel. I'm going to turn it back over to Jeffrey Brown, who's going to provide a couple of instructions before the breakout rooms. Thanks, Jeffrey.
Thank you, everybody. So we have a few basic rules for the breakout room. Rules is too big a word, but the point of this is for you to meet people from your region and as a jumping off point for future teaming conversations. So you should have an open discussion about your region's strengths and areas for growth. You should have an inclusive conversation about how different organization types in the room or region can partner to add value to an application, a proposal for this regional innovation engine. This is not a pitch to NSF. This is about teaming, about you working with or getting to know people in your region. It's not a competitive environment. You should not be in there trying to sell your idea to everybody else, but to think about this as a conversation about how you might together co-create something of real value. And this should not be the first and last time you meet with others in your region. You should think about connecting. You should put your names in the chat, and then from this point you can look forward to fruitful conversations about how to team. Now here are the various rooms, breakout rooms. So it's state-based, but you are allowed to move between rooms. I recommend you start in your home state's breakout room, but feel free to join in other rooms as well if you want to move around. I know that in some cases there are adjacent states that you would like to talk to people from, so feel free to move around. And with that, I'll hand it over.